Squeeze out, squeeze out. All right, let's see. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Let me get all this up, man. Oh, how do I do that? All right. Wait a few minutes, and then we'll go. Then we'll go. Spells and Sorcery, man. It's good stuff. Good stuff. It's how everybody should send a Thursday evening. All right, let's see. Feeling better? Are you talking about my emotional outburst? If you could call it that. My aggravated outburst. It wasn't really an outburst. My aggravation that I let show. Yeah. No, I'm good. I was good the same night, man. I was just frustrated, you know. Technology and whatnot. I'm just not as tech savvy as I used to be, my friend. I used to be, you know, in the upper percentile, and now it's like most 15-year-olds are better with tech than I am. It's frustrating. That's all. It's frustrating. But yeah, I'm good. Family's good, man. Ready for sorcery. The floof. The floofer. A few minutes and then we'll go. But have you heard of witch talk? That is the poll that you see there. So vote in the poll because I'm curious. I had never heard of witch talk until looking into things for tonight. And boy, was that interesting. I suppose would be the nice way of saying it. It was really disturbing. I sat in bed and went through witch talk with Kat, and it was disturbing. That's the word. That's the most accurate word I could ever give it. It was disturbing. It was unsettling. Sounds like regular TikTok. Fair enough. Fair enough. It's quite accurate. It really is interesting though, man. If you've ever spent any time on TikTok, it's very interesting how their algorithm works. Because, I mean, I'd argue it's the best algorithm that's out there. It's the most unbiased algorithm that's out there. If you were to try to curate your YouTube algorithm on something that YouTube didn't agree with, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You could try to go down a flat earth rabbit hole. They're still not going to recommend what they otherwise would were it an unbiased algorithm. Whereas on TikTok, it's truly unbiased. So whatever you end up looking into the most, they'll give you more of it. Now, I would argue slightly that the more negative it is, or the more damaging to your psyche it is, the better the algorithm suits you. Because I think the purpose of TikTok is to derange the mind of Americans. But it's unbiased. They give you exactly what you want, and they give you a hell of a lot of it. YouTube, Instagram, Meta, Twitter or X is better now, but it's still not great algorithmically. It's not the same. It's very interesting, man. May, is good to see you. It's very, very interesting. All right, I think we're gonna roll right into this. So, welcome. I'm just imagining the responses from Witch Talk. We're gonna go through Witch Talk together tonight, in case you were wondering. But welcome. Tonight we're talking about sorcery, witchcraft, spells, stuff like that. If you want to call into the stream because you feel like you have something to add, or you just want to talk crap about anything that we're going over tonight, or really whatever. If you want to come on through voice, you can come on through Discord. All of you I know are already in Discord, but for those who are watching the recording later, you can get into Discord by using the link that is pinned in the live chat. It's also in the description of the video, and I'll also post it as the pinned comment in the regular comment section after this live is over. But if you decide to come on next week, should you be someone who's watching the recording right now, get in the Discord and then come down to this little section right here that's got the red dots. It says streams and lives. You just click the event voice, and then once you're in there, mute yourself, and then you're good to go. Let me know in YouTube chat that you're there, and then we'll let you come on and give your piece. There's that. Now, the first thing to just kind of look at is 1 Chronicle 10:13. I have 5 different translations, aka 5 different interpretations of this same verse. So we're all going to have to listen very closely. There are slight variations, but it's substantial, and you'll understand why. So 1 Chronicles 10:13. So Saul died for his trespass, which he committed against Jehovah, because of the word of Jehovah, which he kept not. And also for that, he asked counsel of one that had a familiar spirit to inquire. Another translation says this. So death came to Saul because of the sin which he did against the Lord, which is because of the word of the Lord, which he kept not, and because he went for directions to one who had an evil spirit. Another translation says this. Saul died because he was unfaithful to the Lord and hadn't followed the Lord's word. He even consulted a medium for guidance. Another one says this. So Saul died for the transgression he committed against Adonijah because of the word of Adonijah that he did not keep, and because he sought the counsel of a spirit. And the last one. And Saul died for his unfaithfulness, which he committed against Jehovah because of the word of Jehovah, which he kept not, and also for having inquired of the spirit of Python, asking counsel of it. So what are the key differences between all of these? It's in the ending. He counseled. So the first one said this. He said he asked counsel of one that had a familiar spirit. The next translation said, because he went for directions to one who had an evil spirit. Another translation said, he even consulted a medium for guidance. Another one said he sought the counsel of a spirit. So neither not negative nor positive, that interpretation. And the last one was also having inquired of the spirit of Python, asking counsel of it. This is one of a lot of verses like this. This is one of those things that I harp on constantly about why, hate me or love me, the Bible is not to be trusted. And the reason is because we are all English speakers. We are all English readers. I would assume most of you don't know how to read Hebrew in this case, but also in the Greek case, in the New Testament case, don't know how to read Greek. So we're getting this all secondhand. And this is just a really good example of just how wildly different the interpretations can be. That is not a small difference. Those are wildly different. Some are neutral, some are negative, some are positive, and then one is very specific with the spirit of Python. Just a good example of why, no, you don't just trust the word of God. Okay, which word? Which translation? Which dude's opinion of what the verse actually says? This is the kind of crap that aggravates the hell out of me, and why going to mainstream Christianity for any kind of answers is asinine. It's absolutely ridiculous, because 99% of them are English speakers only. They're English readers only. And so they're giving you just whatever translation they grew up on, or whatever translation fancies them, or honest, if we're being straight, whatever translation they have an easier time reading is the translation most Christians gravitate towards. And that includes pastors, that includes theologians who don't know the original languages. Beyond all that, which is 100% beside the point, the last one there about inquiring the spirit of Python. What is a Python spirit? Now, this is open also to interpretation to some degree, but this is a good aggregate answer. A spirit of Python is a witchcraft operation coming against your spiritual walk. It desires to silence and suffocate the voice of the prophetic, and since we are called to be a prophetic generation, it wants to silence you. On one occasion, as we went to the place of prayer, a servant girl possessed with a spirit of divination met us, who brought her, this is a quote, by the way, I apologize. Let me restart. This is a quote now from the Bible. On one occasion, as we went to the place of prayer, a servant girl possessed with a spirit of divination met us, who brought her masters much profit by fortune telling. She followed Paul and us, shouting, "These men are servants of the Most High God who proclaim to us the way of salvation." That's out of Acts 16. It's verse 16 through 17. The verse ghost was 1 Chronicles 10:13. And if you end up looking it up electronically and you don't mind just dropping it in the comments what your translation says, I blew it and I didn't save what translations I used to pull these from. So I apologize about that, but I have five. So whatever you end up pulling up from whatever translation you use, if you want to drop it in the comments, I'll compare it and see if I have that one as one of these 5. But that's a very quick, super quick, and very much aggregated answer of what the spirit of Python is. It's believed to be a python spirit. The reason they call it python is because what does a python snake do? It squeezes, it suffocates its prey, right? So a python spirit is a witchcraft operation coming against your spiritual walk. The desire is to silence and suffocate the voice of the prophetic. Other interpretations will tell you that it's because that's very specific to prophecy, right? It's to suffocate and silence the voice of the prophetic because we are a prophetic generation. The other more broad explanations are just that the spirit of Python it's witchcraft that is initiated by humans, so tapping into that evil part of spirituality, and it's to suffocate or silence you in any way. So to suffocate and silence your personal spiritual walk, to suffocate and silence, maybe you were meant to talk to somebody about something and then you chose not to out of fear or whatever. It can manifest in many different ways, is the theory, right? That's the idea. And we get it from scripture. It's one of those things, though, like we talk about a lot, where things that were highly spiritual in nature from the original text in the original languages have been heavily removed. And this spirit of Python is one of them. You can find it in a lot of older manuscripts. You can't really find it in any modern translation. So I'm talking like NIV, ESV, NASB, like the major translations that people use, they've completely excluded it from what I was able to find. Somebody could, check me if I'm wrong about that, but from what I was able to find, the concept of spiritual Python has been removed. It's gone. Doesn't exist anymore in our modern translations. The word divination in Greek is referred to as a python spirit in the spiritual realm, or it would create or would correlate to a python snake in the natural. That's the idea. It comes from the Greek. Now, that's one side of this, right? That's strictly spiritual, strictly. Then you move into the other side of kind of what we're talking about tonight, and that's something we've brushed on in other streams. We've talked about it, is pharmakia, which is where we get our word pharmacy from. And I feel like Christians have kind of taken that and run with it. The idea of pharmakia as solely negative. It's only negative, which is, I mean, it's just not accurate, right? There's facets to it. Context matters. It's important. So I think there are really three questions within pharmakia. One is about translation. One is about the practice of medicine. And one is about really interpretation for the modern day, for today. So first, translation. The word pharmakia is very much like our word for drugs, which most people know by now. TikTok has made a lot of people aware of it that were not previously aware of it. That is, it can refer to many things. When I use the word drugs, I can be referring to Tylenol, which can be purchased over the counter, or to prescription drugs, which require oversight from a physician. But I can also be referring to illegal drugs, such as meth or heroin or something, not legal and arguably demonic, but we won't go down that path. Which I am referring to will depend entirely on the context. That's the most important part. Context matters. We've demonized this word pharmakia, kind of unjustified. It's kind of unjustified. When someone uses the word drugs, they have a specific meaning in mind rather than all three of those meanings, primarily because they're contradictory. They don't work together. So the word pharmakia is much the same in that it has these ranges of meanings, and context is what helps us differentiate what the hell someone's talking about. It can refer also to magic, and that's the primary context within the Bible, specifically within the New Testament. But it also does refer within the Bible to medicine, or what might be called the healing arts. And you can find some context about what the healing arts are in the Greek English lexicon. It does not refer to both of these things at the same time because they contradict each other. It depends entirely on context. In the New Testament, the word pharmakia occurs a total of 3 times in most translations. That's Galatians 5:19 through 21, Revelation 9:21, and Revelation 18:23. Each time, it's translated in English as either sorcery or magic. And it is something that is spoken of in only negative context. The translators have chosen that definition because of the context, not because of the word itself alone without context. They had to have the context to make that educated decision. This does not mean that every possible definition of the word pharmakia, however, is negative, because it is not. It totally depends on the context. So that's one. 2, or second, is the practice of medicine condemned within the New Testament? No, not at all. There are 2 verses that point to a positive view of the practice of medicine. Quote, "Those who are well have no need of a physician. Those who are sick, ... Matthew 9:12, Mark 2:7, Luke 5:13. Context says that is a positive reference to it. Why say that the sick have need of a physician if medicine is condemned? It doesn't contextually make any sense. Also in Colossians 4:14, it brings greetings from Luke the physician. A little bit looser, right, for the argument, but all the same, it's there and it's something valid to bring up. Why would Luke's profession as a physician be mentioned at all if it was viewed as inappropriate or tantamount to sorcery? It wouldn't. This means there are uses of the term, there are uses of medicine that are not sorcery. They're not considered sorcery, at least seemingly so through the context of the Bible. The New Testament certainly recognizes that healing can occur in other ways besides through the care of a physician. Obviously, we have a lot of references of that. Jesus is presented as the quintessential healer. That was kind of a big part of who he was. Both Mark and Luke tell a story about a woman who had been ill for many years and who had seen many physicians, none of whom were able to help her. You can read about that in Mark 5:26 and Luke 8:43. This does not condemn the medical profession. Rather, it describes the desperate state of the woman. So again, positive context, just some examples. And then third, the interpretation for today. Healing is obviously a very complex process. because you can look at it kind of from a spiritual angle, and you can look at it more of a, I guess I'll call it secular angle, but in reality, it's all spiritual. Any physician today would agree that it can either be a negative thing or a positive thing, right? Because it's still just context. What is the context? What is the specific drug? What is the reason for using it? What are the intentions? Today, when you hear the term drugs, it's usually just due to society seen as a negative thing. The point I'm trying to get across is that pharmakia is not a negative thing. It can be a negative thing. And just incidentally, the uses of it within the New Testament, they're mostly in a negative context. So Christians have really tried to like gravitate towards this idea that pharmakia is all negative, and it's just not. It's just not. But the parts in the Bible that talk about it, they are. So those are things to just keep in mind. Pharmakia is related directly to sorcery if the New Testament is your place of context, or your where you're pulling it from. Sorcery also within the occult, right? That's something I don't want to get super deep into tonight, because that's hours and hours in and of itself, and that's something that I think Kat wants to do with me. Go straight into the occult, just talk about that, because it's deep. It's deep. And for those of you who don't know, when I was younger, I got to see some occult stuff firsthand. I got to see some Satanistic stuff firsthand, and it's something. It's something. So at some point, we'll dedicate a full episode to just occult practices. But sorcery within that context is the practice of malevolent magic, derived from casting lots as means of divining the future in the ancient Mediterranean world. Some scholars distinguish sorcery from witchcraft by noting that it is learned rather than intrinsic. And that's kind of an important thing if this is something that you care to learn about or that you're going to look into. So I'm going to read it again. Many scholars distinguish sorcery from witchcraft by noting that it is learned rather than intrinsic. Important note. Other scholars, noting that modern witches claim to learn their craft, suggest that sorcery's intent is always evil, and that of witchcraft can be either good. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I read that right. Other scholars, noting that modern witches claim to learn their craft, suggest that sorcery's intent is always evil, and that of witchcraft can be either good or bad. In the early Christian era, the term was applied to any magician or wizard, but by the Middle Ages, only those who allegedly practiced magic intended to harm others. In Western popular culture and in Western children's literature in particular, the sorcerer often assumes a more positive guise. That was an interesting cultural shift. If this isn't something you've looked into, a lot of this will probably be new. But it did start as a very much totally negative thing, almost. And then there was a point, specifically in the Western world, when we started to cultivate this concept of witches and sorcery and spells and everything that we're talking about tonight within popular culture, pop culture, and children's literature. And then the sorcerer was essentially turned into something that was positive, which can't be that surprising, because that's what our society has done with everything that's negative. Think about, literally anything. Think about literally anything. Drugs, in many ways, have become positive. Like bad drugs have become positive. We're supporting that in places like San Francisco. Think about the way we view sex now. What used to be, deplorable behavior, and I'm not talking about homosexuality or anything. I'm saying like no regard or respect for our bodies and the privacy of them, and that sexual intercourse is a special thing. These are things that have just been bastardized by society. That is my point. The sorcerer has traditionally been feared, in part because of his supposed knowledge of the occult, and especially because of his understanding of poisons. Indeed, in the 13th, 14th century, most trials for witchcraft involved deaths attributed to malevolent magic, but which were probably caused by poisoning. In a famous case in 1324 in Ireland, Lady Alice Kyteler was charged with performing magical rites, having sexual intercourse with demons, attempting to divine the future, and poisoning her first 3 husbands, which just poisoning her first 3 husbands. What does that mean? That means there were more. She just only poisoned the first 3. Wild. Okay, in the Malleus Maleficarum, and there's no way I'm saying that right, but that's 1486, and in English, The Hammer of Witches, the famous witch hunter's manual, Dominicans Hinrich Kramer and Jacob Springer associated the practice of sorcery with a group of witches who allegedly practice Satanism. Forever, there has been a pretty dramatic tie between things like sorcery and Satanism, or the practice of occult. As a result of their work and that of others in the 13th through the 15th century, witchcraft was understood as a Christian heresy, and sorcery, like the practice of magic in general, was believed to be an integral part of witches' dealings with the devil. So there's a whole bunch of information. That's all I have for that. I'm going to read the comments real quick, and then we're going to go into witch talk together, and we're going to talk about it. If anybody does want to come on, I just realized I wasn't in the event voice. So if you want to come on, just join the voice channel, and then let me know in YouTube so I can have it go to the stream, because right now it's turned off. All right. Divination, spell, sorcery. Nothing happens until somebody sells something. Fred Maltley. What is that from, Mikkel? Nothing happens until somebody sells something. What was that pulled from? Forked tongues, double speak. Yeah, for the serpents. Because toads wouldn't want them to. Oh my God. I'm confused. The original snake at the garden spoke truth. Quite. Yeah, agreed. Agreed. Maybe negative in context, but agreed. For sure. Truth in veiled context or calculated omission. That they would know good or bad, and they become familiar with bad as consequence of their orals X. And then they were awful parents that raised adulterous kids. Every institution is touched by duality, good chemicals, bad chemicals. Yeah. I mean, there's yes, virtually everything, right? Virtually everything, if not literally everything. It does go both ways. Is there already an argument in the chat? Must mean she had something good going on, or she knew how to draw the dumb ones up. Oh my God, Ghost really saying what I was thinking. Did we delete something that hurt somebody's feelings? Don't do that. Just let it ride, man. If somebody gets their feelings hurt, that's a them problem, in my opinion. But yeah, interesting stuff. All right, so here's what we're going to do now. We are going to go into witch talk together. This is the part I'm very excited about because it's disturbing, extremely. You guys let me know if the volume for the witchy people is too loud, and I will turn it down. But this is witch talk. If you would like to do any research yourself into witch talk, go to TikTok and search witch talk. You'll have no problems. It's going to pop right up. So here you go. Signs you're a natural born witch. Oh, sorry guys. Hold on. Children and animals are drawn to you. You love nature and being immersed in it. Your intuition is insanely... Your intuition is insanely accurate, borderline psychic abilities. You hate large crowds. They bring a lot of anxiety and feel drained after. And 5, you've always been drawn to the supernatural and paranormal. You're extremely sensitive to other people's energies, auras. People confide in you frequently. You find that people you don't know well tell you personal things about them. And that's it for her. So here's my question on that one. Yeah, nobody deleted anything because I can see that. It shows that to me. So Gordon, nobody deleted anything. I looked through the chat. There, I get a notice if somebody deletes something. There is no notice. So let's all just chill. Let's all chill and go through witch talk because that's way more important than bickering in the chat. How about that? These are all things, everything she said. These are all things that like a very large portion of the population experiences. So if this is accurate, then a lot of people are witches. A lot of people are witches.
The day he left me was the day that I died. And I was reborn as a witch. The day he left me.
I'm gonna make you watch this one again.
The day that I died.
This is TikTok.
And I was reborn as a witch. The day he left me was the day that I died.
More.
Things that just make sense in my witchy house. Doorways are a portal and can collect a lot of unwanted energy. To keep my space free and clear, I give them a good moon water bath, and then you'll find selenite sticks and tourmaline pieces on every single doorway. These help keep that unwanted energy out and allows for the good vibes to flow through. Even your pets will notice the difference. Things that just make sense in my witchy house.
Yeah, Mystic, you're right, actually. So on the music ones, I'm probably gonna mute it. I think you get a certain amount of seconds though. As long as it's short enough, I think they don't strike you. So this girl does what? She puts salt around the door. Doorways are portals and collect a lot of energy. Are doorways portals? That's a good question. As a contractor, we put doors all over the place, right? We install doors all over the place. Does that mean we're installing portals to another realm? I'm a pretty spiritual guy. I believe in a lot of spiritual stuff. And I think there are connections we can make to other realms, right? You guys are aware of that. I believe that. And maybe someone will tell me something or teach me something that'll make me change my mind. But for now, I think this shit is ridiculous. I think it's totally ridiculous. You're going to rub salt, wet salt around a door and use moonstones on top of the door because they are portals. So here's a thought. This lady hires our company to come into her house and build an addition. Okay. That requires framing, a new wall, and a doorway. So if we do that, am I literally creating a doorway to another realm? I don't know. I don't think so. But I don't know. I could be. But I'm going to assume not. So stuff like this, to me, is just asinine. It's ridiculous. It's silly. It's kind of funny. But it's also kind of sad. Because it's like, what? Why do you believe that? Where does that actually come from? And if you look into some of these things, yeah, Kip is crying. If you look into some of these